Welcome to Inspired Design Notes. Our project today is how to plant an artificial orchid. We just had the conversation on whether or not to call these materials artificial, permanent, silk, faux. There's so many names out there in the industry right now, but we're going to stick with faux flowers using the French term for imitation. They're so lifelike today that you really don't know whether it's fresh or silk until you go up to them and smell them. I find that we sell quite a few of these beautiful Phalaenopsis orchids in the artificial or faux in the store for people to insert into their live orchid plants when they stop blooming. I mean, they're just incredibly realistic. But the most important thing when you're going to work with these materials is you have to make them look lifelike, and that comes from studying Mother Nature, seeing how they actually grow, and then when you pick them up at the store, we take them out of a box. Sometimes they don't really resemble Mother Nature as much as they should, so you are going to have to do that for them. So that's what this section is going to be about, and then the next section will be actually how you're going to plant it. So to start with, this is a beautiful Phalaenopsis, and it's got lots of wonderful motion to it, and for the most part it's all ready to use. What you'll find though is when you go to pot it, you may decide you want to give the bend, a little bend to the stem. You can bend the flowers over this way, give them a little bit more curve. You may want to make them straighter. That's kind of up to you. You can always go, the grocery store always has lots of beautiful living orchids that you can look at. That's your teacher. See how they grow and then shape them to match that. So this is a little baby one here, and you can see sometimes they come with these little crooks in the stems and things that aren't very natural. Mother Nature rarely grows a flower with a 90-degree angle on it. So you'll want to go ahead and take those kind of corners off of your flowers. If they have any little glue strings on them, you need to just kind of work with them. The most important thing with your faux flowers is don't be afraid of them. You really can't hurt them. They don't break like fresh flowers do. So you get to be in control, and that's truly what you need to do with those flowers. With your silk orchids, you'll find that they tend to either come with or without a plant. If it does not have a plant, obviously to make it look like a plant in a pot, you're going to need that to go with it. And they come like this. They're usually flat, so you want to work with them. A good silk flower will have wires throughout the stems and leaves so that you can manipulate them and bend them into position. So we're just going to open this up like so. Again, taking our cues from Mother Nature, and bend the little roots down. And then that's going to be ready to pot, and then you can see how you would add this stem beside it and have a lovely plant when you put it in a pot. This one is a beautiful little lady slipper orchid, and you can easily see where it gets its name from the slipper, and again its leaves are all folded up. We're going to just fold them out. I tend to take and run this over my thumb this way, and it kind of adds a little bit of a curve and bent right out from the base of the stem, and she's ready to go. Perhaps this stem is too curved. You can straighten it out a little bit if you want, or perhaps you want it to have a real drape to it, so you could certainly bend it down like so. Again, if you can't get to the grocery store or somewhere where they have the flowers that you're looking for, pick up a garden magazine, a gardening book, anything where you can get a good picture of what they look like. We're going to add some fern plants to these orchid plants once we pot them, and they're doing fabulous faux ferns and little miniature plants now. This is really kind of a recent introduction in the past 5 to maybe 8 years or so, but each year they come out with more of them. And what's wonderful is these plants are in proportion to the size of the flower stems, like the orchids that you're going to be using. So again, you must open them up. Ferns usually have a bit of a curve to the stem as they reach out, and they're in that rosette form, which is the way a rose grows, or an African violet's a perfect example of rosette, where everything grows from a center in a nice little circle. So we're going to take and again bend all of those materials from the center of the plant, and letting the tallest ones in the middle kind of reach up and have this nice gentle curve to them. And then once you pot it, you're going to be able to still work with it a little bit to fit it into the style that you're doing. But that's basically ready to work with. Another little style here. This again has got wire in all of the stems so that you can unfold them open it up. It's a little maidenhair fern. And you just really have to work with it. And I can't stress enough, just take control and really work with the stems. Don't be afraid to bend them. They always bend back into position, and worst thing happens, you can always glue the leaves back on if you pull them off. So she's in a nice rosette form as well, ready to use. Another little miniature here. This one's made of plastic, which I know is a bad word to use, but just pretend, work with it. And there's fabulous things being done in plastic. It's not possible to do them in silk. You get this wonderful frilly little detail. You couldn't do that with fabric. It's just opened up all kinds of possibilities in the plant world that they can create. So it's a good thing. And she's again in that nice rosette form, all ready to go. Lastly, I think we're going to add a branch to the design when we put it together to give it a little wispy feel and some height. This is a nice birch stem, and for the most part when you look at birch, if it's weeping, it has a wonderful drape to it. If it's an upright birch, it'll be pretty stiff and straight in the stems. So there isn't much to do to this other than just opening it up. It's fairly large, so we're going to be cutting it into pieces. And then lastly, it's wonderful to work with some of the more curly types of branches because you get that kind of wild and crazy look going on with it. Curly willow and tends to blend well with orchids. It just seems to fit their nature. And again, it comes all folded up in a bag, and you just need to take it and start pulling the branches out and unfolding them. And then once we get it to that point, you can kind of look at it and decide how much curve that you want in the stem. So if you like that, you can kind of even make it tighter. On some stems, you can wrap them around your finger if you want to put a little curl in them, the way curly willow will do. And once you put this into the pot, you'll decide exactly what you like the look of. But that stem is really well ready to use at this point, and again, we're going to need to cut that apart. So at this point, we have all of our flowers ready to go. They're all styled, and our next section is going to be how to pot them. Thank you for joining us, and I hope to see you in our next section.